let's say going to a X hotel, and I go to that hotel in Delhi, in Dubai,
Right.
in Singapore, or in, let's say, somewhere anywhere in Germany, right? The room
Mm.
will largely be the same. I mean, maybe the size might
Right.
be
Right.
plus minus 10-20%, but in terms of the palette, the decor, it's consistent and standard. But if I go to an Airbnb in Dubai, if I take
Hmm.
I mean, Dubai, they have boats on Airbnb in the marina. You go to, let's say, somewhere in southern Italy, you'll have
Hmm.
farmhouses. So I'm saying getting that flavor, but with the same consistency. I think that's a great job they've done on customer experience and CX.
And now to your point that now the Marriotts of the world are catching up with Airbnb to match the customer experience.
Correct.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of CX with Chopra, where we talk about everything customer experience. I think in our previous episodes we have talked about the importance of customer experience. I mean, there are industry researches, surveys out there which highlight the importance of customer experience. For instance, Salesforce came up with the research that about 76% of the customers expect the brands to know them, know their expectation, know their needs. PwC came up with the research that every 1 in 3 customer out there would probably stop doing business with the brand they love after just one bad experience. So yes, I mean, we all understand the importance of customer experience. The brands know the importance of customer experience, and it's probably one of the top priorities now that we are in the phase or era of customer experience transformation. But we felt that it's important to also talk about, rather acknowledge that how different industries would have different considerations, would have different priorities for CX, depending on the nature of the customer journey, depending on the number of digital touch points, and so many other factors. For instance, let's say for retail. Now, for retail, a seamless customer experience, between different digital touch points could be the top priority for them. Let's take another example, let's say of healthcare. For healthcare professionals or healthcare institutes, top CX priority would be probably data security or personalized care or probably ease of access. Travel and hospitality, again, there's so many different digital touch points. For them, the focus would be personalized experiences. Guest satisfaction would be their top priority from a CX standpoint. Likewise, banking would focus on security, data security, ease of transaction, and personalized services. And now education. I mean, with the advent of whole digitization in the education space now, CX is also being talked about and is becoming a priority in the education sector as well. So to talk about all these different perspectives, probably build a frame of how we can go about looking at different industries and probably come up with a strategy of how do we measure CX. So we have our guest today, Rohan. Thank you for joining our podcast. So Rohan is an experienced business leader. He comes in with 14 years of experience in strategy consulting in tech startups, worked across different global markets from India, Middle East, Central Europe, Southeast Asia. He's always while working driving growth and leading teams, he's always had a key eye towards customer experience while doing all of that. He's done his masters in business administration from IIM Calcutta. He's played various roles, from consulting to product owner roles from organizations like Kearney, Accenture, strategy, Siemens, OYO, Series A ed tech startups. And in his career, I mean, he excels in strategy, revenue growth, and creating impactful business turnarounds. So thank you for joining the podcast. Would love to have this, build this whole conversation about CX and different perspectives.
So thank you for having me here. That was a very, very kind introduction. And love to talk about CX and get into various aspects of CX over our conversation.
So how do you define CX?
Interesting question. When we talk about CX, I think different people have very different takeaways or their definitions of what CX is for them. But I would say CX cuts across the entire customer life cycle. So right from the pre-sales, awareness, consideration, thinking about should I buy a product or a service, the entire purchase part, and then the post-sales till the end of life cycle. CX cuts across all of this. I would say a lot of people generally associate CX with customer service after buying, but
Right.
CX cuts across all of this. I think it's important to understand that we think about CX end to end and how interdependent in how we think about the entire life cycle for a customer.
Yeah, true. Because typically, like you're saying, people think of services part or service management as managing the customer experience, but that's not how it is, and probably that's also reflected in the whole evolution of CX.
Absolutely. That's not only how it is.
Right.
It is,
It is still a very integral
yeah,
part.
think about getting to know a brand. Think about, even if you think about, let's say you think about buying a particular or going for a vacation, thinking about a particular hotel chain which comes into your consideration set
Right.
for that particular area.
Right.
Even that is part of CX.
Right.
If you go to an e-commerce platform, what gets shown to you? You are searching for X, something which you actually want. That, and maybe a bit more personalized, some kind of recommendations based on your buying behavior, a particular brand, a particular kind of a product within that X, a subset, because I mean now we are spoiled for choice as a generation.
Oh, interesting, because when you look at, I mean, while you talk about the evolution of CX, because rightly said, probably let's say in the 90s or early 2000, when the whole digitization had not happened, it was mostly considered more like a services driven organization probably would focus on CX. But now with the advent of digitization, product discovery, like you said, all these things come into aspect which become very integral part of CX. I mean, just to give an interesting example, I remember when we were young, whenever let's say somebody would go on a Euro trip or any trip, you will buy those maps. You'll buy those books about Europe or places. You'll read up about them. You'll go there. You'll open map and see, okay, we are in this city and we'll travel to this city, and you'll plan everything together. Probably that's why people used to go in with all the travel agents, book with Thomas Cook and some of the others which were there. I remember back in the day, because there's no way for you to do product discovery yourself. And now cut to 2024. I mean, it's not just searching on a Make My Trip, Ixigo, Booking.com, but you can also get those augmented reality experiences as well, right? Google Map comes in with that. You can actually go through that street and see how the hotel looks like,
Absolutely.
What are the places, how far it's going to be. I think it's a great example I think I could think of where which directly reflects the evolution of CX.
No, absolutely. I think, and correctly said, I think CX has been there for the ages.
For the ages.
As with anything, there is an evolution of CX. And if we talk about more recent times, right? Given the fact, because of social media or internet, there is now a new platform and for people to voice their thoughts about any product or any service which they have, which can be positive or negative. So that's an additional aspect and an additional complexity which CX, you
have to manage now.
manage in an organization, right? In terms of CX, in terms of innovation, in terms of a lot of new things which are happening, especially when you talk about discovery, when you talk about social media channels, when you talk about how CX is also delivered. There's so much of innovation and evolution happening at such a constant pace that organizations need to be on their toes to ensure that this gets done. So that's what makes CX extremely critical in today's world.
Right.
That, and especially for new age organizations, especially who have presence on the internet across
Digital
multiple
native
channels.
organizations.
Yeah, digital native. I mean, the multi-channels, right? You can actually end up having a purchase or reaching a touch point through X social media or through a search platform, or through different channel partners, or you can even actually have a physical presence as well. So that omni-channel strategy, and the voice is instant and can be amplified. One good experience, one bad experience from an influencer, for example, right, can reach thousands and thousands of followers.
Millions of followers. Yeah,
I think I was just downplaying that. But
no, true. And you talked about evolution. Now I see there are three evolutions in the whole CX space. One is the evolution of technology. One is the evolution of companies, more on how do they adopt to those technologies. And the third is customers. Are they ready yet to adopt, get onto that whole new tech, new CX trend which is out there? For example, digitization, the first one, tech, I think is on steroids. It's been on steroids for so many years. Last year it was, we've talked about customer 360, digital twin, all those things. And last year it was last to last year, 2022 was probably about metaverse. Everybody was talking metaverse. 2023 was about generative AI towards the end of it. And now let's see how 2024 unfolds. So tech is evolving at a very fast pace. Companies are, yes, adopting. I mean, some of the companies just had started on the whole metaverse, started implementation. Now metaverse is, nobody's talking about metaverse. Now imagine therefore now they have to switch gears and now invest into Gen AI. Now invest into more upcoming. So technologies would also have that evolution cycle. And the third most important is customer. Is the customer ready to use an Apple Vision Pro or not? For example, are my parents ready to use if let's say Apple Vision Pro becomes available to everybody at a decent price? Are they ready to use it or not? Or they will also, because for them, I think the whole pandemic did help in terms of getting on to even ordering vegetables to ordering anything via phone, via apps, having 20 apps on their phone. Now they've gotten used to it. Now for them to jump on to the next one, it's going to take time. So it's very interesting that how these three things would pan out in the future, because that will define the whole CX transformation in my view.
No, absolutely. But I think just to be the devil's advocate here, right? I would look at CX from two lenses. One is fundamentally for organizations. They need to think about CX. They need to think about getting the CX strategy, ensuring that how they think about CX is there. CX at the minimum can be needs to be a point of parity. That at least you are, it's a good to have.
Right.
I mean, a decent CX is a must have, I would say. Now, for a lot of organizations, CX actually is a differentiator. And when I said CX, it could mean different parts of the life cycle. It could be pre-sales, it could be purchase, it could be post-sales, it could be during the consumption of that particular service or particular product. So, and that can be a make or break between a good and a great organization. So fundamentally, that lens, that organizations, different business, different functions within an organization, different teams within an organization, how they think about CX, how it is embedded in their day-to-day working, how they're going about it, that still needs to be there.
Right.
The second bit aspect, and as you said, and more so for a certain subset of industries which I think are affected more by, let's say, which are more customer facing, which are maybe tech enabled, large scale. There, as you very rightly said, being on their toes and keeping in line with the kind of innovation which is happening across different things in CX, right? For example, metaverse could have been maybe the new way of discovery.
True.
I mean, for a brand to exist, they needed to be on the metaverse and have that kind of real estate there.
Correct.
But I mean, let's not talk about metaverse as a story, but like, so that for business managers to keep thinking about this, that what can be relevant, potentially the risk around it, the missed opportunities of not taking the, let's say, the right decisions or
investing on it, because
or investing on it at the
it'll
right
take
time.
time to come to life.
It will take time to come to life, right? So that is the second lens. So it's, I would say, get your fundamentals right. That will, I would say that will stay true throughout the ages. If you don't have your fundamentals right, I mean, you can talk about having.
But when you say fundamental, is it more about being agile and nimble in terms of being open to new ideas, being open to quickly accept that this is not working out, let's shelf this project, let's pick up a new one? Or fundamental more in terms of having a clear vision, a clear mindset? Or in what sense?
So I would say it's the latter, right?
Okay.
It's having a clearly defined CS strategy. It's having different
and staying true to it.
And staying true to it, right? Different teams, different functions, different people. Because CX, there is no one person is owning it.
Right.
I mean, there will be accountability, but usually for CX, multiple teams in an organization have to come together to ensure a great experience.
Correct.
For across the touch points, across the life cycle for customers. It will be sales and marketing.
Because CX is no more a marketing function, what it used to be.
Absolutely.
That for awareness, you think on
Absolutely.
because now even tech plays the biggest role now, probably, right? Operations, everything now plays a key role. Even in terms of HR. I mean, how your employees are talking to the end customers.
Absolutely.
That is a very important aspect.
The process, the training,
everything.
Having CX champions, for example, right? I mean, simple things.
True, correct.
Or talking about CX and measure, defining it, measuring it. So that's what. So when I talk about fundamentals and getting the basics right, I think this is something which all organizations have to do and get it right. Now, along with this, the second lens is by being on top of the trends and the curve and being the first, let's say, having the first mover advantage or getting it right and identifying potential opportunities, that can create the delta incremental impact and can also sometimes be the difference between good and great. That's why I said it needs to be looked at from two different lenses.
But they're very different perspectives. So in my previous podcast, one of the guests, so you spoke about that, getting that first mover advantage. Now she spoke about that it's always good to be the second one to adopt something, because the first one would try. You should probably, because there's so many new innovations coming out, so it's better to wait and watch and see if somebody has done it, it's working, and then you jump onto that wave. I mean, it's very different, and of course,
Fair.
it will depend on different industries, different segments, how fast paced it's going, how competitive or cutthroat it is, or yeah, I mean, it's very interesting.
It also depends on how you size that opportunity and the potential prize out there, right? Sometimes just
True.
being a second mover in certain cases, right, may not be enough for you to have that. Then
You'll
it
miss
just
the
becomes
bus.
more of a point of parity later on, right? For example, if some
Then you're not seen as somebody who's
so
innovative. or-
you're not seen as innovative. You may just have to get along with the bandwagon to be there, to
Right.
be in the consideration set. So
Right.
that's what. So those are things which now leaders, managers have to kind of think, be agile about, continue to learn, relearn, unlearn, iterate, pilot, maybe be okay to fail, but kind of be on the toes to ensure that this happens.
Right, because now even the customers are expecting it. Because if I'm giving you the right to access my data, now I am in return expecting that you'll give me like it's a point of parity for business competition. For customer, it's something which they expect. If I'm giving you access to my data, I better get some personalized experience. What are you doing with my data?
Absolutely.
So yeah, interesting. Now coming from there, so can you come with what organizations come to your mind when you think of good CX?
So Airbnb, I think, has disrupted a very unique hospitality segment. It's kind of also created a new market in terms of getting unorganized, a very diverse set of hosts, and then connecting them with potential guests. To be able to do that in such a seamless way, and ensuring that, irrespective of whichever country you go, whichever city you go,
Right.
what kind of host you may have, right? I mean, everybody will have a different level of capability or experience, right?
And
Or
different
different
cultural
languages,
aspects also.
cultural aspect, different
Which is very
language.
important, yeah.
But to bridge that, right, and give great seamless customer
Uniform
experience, yeah, in terms of communication, in terms
That's
of check-in, in terms of the stay experience, I think that has been great. When I want to talk about Airbnb on that.
And I remember in their journey, and they also evolved, right? They also did a lot of experimentation, and they realized what are the how they can improve customer experience. I think one thing was that they used to send professional photographers to the host to take pictures, because the end user, it had a higher impact on somebody selecting a property if the pictures were very clear, sharp, and attractive as well to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, like you're saying, your fundamentals, probably they had their strong fundamentals, that this is going to be our focus on could be a customer experience, and then that's how they picked those little things, started improvising, and now they're out there challenging the Marriotts of the world, all the big hotel chains.
And they've kind of created a niche for themselves. So you have the big hotel chains,
Correct.
but in parallel to that, you have the I think a set of users, myself included, that who end up preferring BNB maybe, and it's sometimes just because I'm getting the same predictability, I'm getting the same sense of comfort going into a
Right.
unknown country, but then also at the same time having the joy to experience maybe somebody's house, home, their cultural aspects, which is very
Interact
different
with them.
from, let's say, going to an X hotel, and I go to that X hotel in Delhi, in Dubai,
Right.
in Singapore, or in, let's say, somewhere anywhere in Germany, right? The room will largely be the same. I mean, maybe the size might
Right,
be
right.
plus minus 10-20%, but in terms of the palette, the decor, it's consistent and standard. But if I go to an Airbnb in Dubai, If I take like, I mean, Dubai, they have boats on Airbnb in the marina. You go to, let's say, somewhere in southern Italy, you'll have farmhouses. So I'm saying getting that flavor, but with the same consistency, I think that's a great job they've done on customer experience and CX.
And now to your point that now the Marriotts of the world are catching up with Airbnb to match the customer experience.
Correct.
In a
Absolutely.
way, because they were like, they got the first mover advantage, and I think then they established the whole space to themselves. Right. Moving towards the next question. So, in your experience as a product owner or as a consultant, so how would any brand go about defining a cutting edge CX strategy?
First is simply understand your customer. The who, what, where, what they desire, what they wish, what their expectations are, right? And it's extremely important that you understand that,
Right.
right?
What do they do? What are their moments?
Absolutely. What are their pain points? What are their aspirations? You think
Correct.
about functionally what they look at something. Aspirationally, what do they look at? What are the softer things which it's important for them, right?
Because one of my guests pointed out an interesting aspect that customers are typically on a mission. Mission could be that it's my birthday and probably I want to make, it's my kid's birthday and I have to throw a birthday party. Or let's say it's, somebody's anniversary, or let's say there's a retirement party, or could be any mission. If I have to go to office tomorrow, let's say they're on a mission. Now in that mission, how can you solve a particular problem and then place your brand there is what brands need to know, like you said, about everything about the customers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for customers, right? I mean, they could be they could be Arjun on one end. Now, for him, maybe quality and peace of mind is more important. There could be Rohan. Very similar backgrounds, but for Rohan, and if Rohan represents a big set of your customers, maybe it's the ease of booking and not having any headache.
Right.
Like maybe that's more important.
Right.
So I think it's important to understand your customers. Surveys, focal groups, enough material out there where you can kind of, and just talking to your customers. Needless to say, I think the more you talk to your different set of customers, the more you understand your customers, the more different teams, different folks in the organization spend time engaging with customers. I think that's effort well spent. The second, I would say, what we spoke about was knowing the journey, right? So, for how do the different interactions, right from how do the customers get to know about you? Where can they find you? How can they find you? How do they think about it? The compare and contrast. Then, and this can be across channels, right? I mean, they could find you on X channel,
Right.
or get to know about you on X channel, discover and engage with the brand on Y channel, go about almost making the purchase decision on Z channel, and then actually doing the purchase in some other channel itself, right?
Right.
And then the post, so the entire journey, the different interactions, the different level of engagements, the touch points, the pain points, I think that needs to be fully understood.
Right. What's the end-to-end customer journey?
Absolutely.
And that also is a reflection of, I think, the involvement the customer would have,
Absolutely.
right, in the whole buying process, which would be an outcome of, let's say, the risk which are associated with taking that decision.
Absolutely.
Like you were saying, for yourself, it's probably hedonic risk. I just want ease. I just want to enjoy, relax. For somebody, it could be quality risk. Somebody, it could be financial risk. Somebody, it could be a time risk. Time I'm investing in that whole decision or interacting with the brand. So yeah, I think all these things are related, and that define how much involved a customer is, and adding to the complexity of so many different touch points. Like I could discover a product on Instagram, go to the store. Inside the store, I would still open the app to compare the prices.
May happen.
And my expectation would be to have a consistent experience. And that's where the brand trust, reputation, perception, all those things are built, and then I make a decision. So yeah, I mean, totally agree with you that, all these things have to be thought through.
Have to be understood first.
Understood first.
And thought
Very
through.
important.
And I think just to build on to that, right? I mean, for each stage and with each part of the journey, there is almost like a moment of truth. So if you can understand that, what that moment of truth is for the customers along the journey, along that entire, that will help you understand what needs to then eventually be prioritized for just to have a good experience versus something which needs to be prioritized to be great in order to be that differentiator for your organization.
Right. And that's why I think after doing your MBA, they send you to do sales in, let's say, tier 2, tier 3, where you sit with the customer, you understand what's happening, how it's done, what is the mindset. And then later on, probably you can sit in a nice, comfy room and come up with all the strategies.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. And then, like you said, and last part is to how do we enable the whole CX transformation,
Absolutely.
right? Because the enablement part would involve people, platforms, processes, everything.
and how you set it up, right? Something can be in-house, something can be outsourced. Some experiences can be very transactional. There you need to get it right in time, in full.
Right.
Some experiences are like, or some service requests can be very specialized. There you need to ensure the quality of resolution, right? If you've, let's say, had a bad experience, or you need, let's just take an example of e-commerce. You might want a regular return. Now there you should just be able to go return it with ease if it is
Right.
within the return policy, and get to know the status of your return when you get your money, when the pickup happens. So it's more very it can be very transactional, high
Right.
volume. There it's just the ease and ensuring that it happens in time without any failures for everyone. But there could be some specialized requests that where you ordered something, maybe you've got a wrong product sent
Right.
by mistake. There then it becomes like a specialized, you need to understand where what went wrong where, how do you ensure that the resolution happens for the customer, with the required level of to this satisfaction as well, right? And
Right.
what that resolution is, the resolution could be different for Arjun, it could be different for Rohan.
Right.
So that's what, all these needs to be thought through, and then how do you go about approaching it? And with everything you need to balance the cost and the
Right.
organizational, you could
Correct. You can have everything in the
everything,
world.
but then you need to also think about the bottom line.
Now that we've talked about all the important aspects, why CX important, why don't we take an example of any business
Why don't you come up with an example?
and build a CX strategy for them? Let's take since I think we talked a lot about travel and hospitality. Let's take travel and hospitality. Let's say a big hotel chain or is coming up with new set of villas, right? And now since India is becoming big on travel and hospitality, thanks to Prime Minister Modi as well for promoting and encouraging. So let's say they plan to open villas in Goa, Maldives, and probably let's say the Havelock Islands in Andaman. How would that brand go about defining their CX strategy? Or how would you do it?
It's a good question, I think, and
I think it's a tough one, but
it's a tough.
I think being
but
a
an interesting
consultant,
one.
I think I can push you hard on some of these things.
Fine. So you've poked the right buttons, and I would then say that let's go back to one of our previous conversations. What we had, areas of the conversation, we spoke about the different elements when we think about defining a good CX strategy, and let's use that as a frame to
build
bring this to life, right? And why don't you also kind of keep chipping in?
I would.
Yeah. So let's make it like a joint collaborative process.
Yeah. And if any investors are out there, we are happy to then bring this to life.
Absolutely. Right. So let's start with the first element, which was getting to understand and know your customer. Right. Here, the target groups.
Right.
Their buying usage behavior, their buying behavior, their aspirations,
Their
what do
lifestyle.
they look for, their lifestyle, right? Understanding them end to end. Now, obviously, in the interest of time and just to bring it to life, let's just say these villas, and building onto that, these villas can be of a 2 or 3 room set as well.
Correct.
So one group which emerges is, let's say, groups. A group of friends, and I'm just taking one example, or families. I'm taking just one example out of the different potential target segments. So group of friends and families from tier 1 cities, maybe across the age group of anywhere between 18-20 to maybe let's say 45-50, will be potential customers. So understanding them, what are they looking for, because then they will be a group of friends and family, right? So they will require maybe some independence, they will require some so how do they think about going to choose it? So is location will location be important, is the price point important, or whether it is the features and the some particular set of attributes which will
Right.
kind of they'll look like.
An
Like,
element of, like you talked about risks, right? Like you
Yeah.
said, the good financial risks we'll have to look into, quality risk, how good the
Absolutely.
experience, even social risk in their case.
Social risk, and like for example, one thing which comes to my mind here, because let's say there are a group of friends
Hmm.
and not a couple, for example, right?
Hmm.
So there is also a variability factor which comes into maybe a flexibility of the travel plan. Two people might have to drop off because of some. I mean, because then you have to kind of coordinate now. Let's say if 6 people are traveling, 6 calendars,
Right.
six schedule from their working lives. I'm assuming everybody is working, right?
Hmm.
So the variability increases. So maybe understanding that customer, which can then go into building your CX according to that, right? Having that flexibility in the product attribute that we are flexible, we allow certain changes, or the processes or the touch points or our interactions are set up and can enable these flexibility to, let's say, changes. One person may drop out. There might be an additional person who joins in. So I'm giving an example. Or there could be you move it by 2 days.
Right.
So that flexibility and how we go about it and how we define our experience about it, that comes to life by knowing your customer and understanding your customer targets, like target groups better. So that's one, right? I think moving on, understanding the journey, right? How do you kind of get it across on social media channels, or how do you bring awareness about this, kind of use this to also build and expand onto a use case or a target segment, right? Get into the consideration set. Then how do you get awareness? Is it across social media channels? Is it across, let's say, travel magazines? Is it across being featured in certain particular, let's say, movies? Or
Right. Right. Yeah.
it could be across, be featured in, let's say, a good new series,
Correct.
right? So that's how you think about understanding the journey,
The whole product discovery part. at
product
least.
discovery part,
Right.
then the consideration part. Then do you go with the regular channels of regular OTAs, or do you only do individual direct bookings? And then what are the touch points there? How do you ensure that that experience is similar? And then by understanding the journey, that maybe like like here a unique example here, or like just to add a bit of flavor, we spoke about check-in experiences a bit earlier. Now add to that complexity that there are, let's say, 6 people coming in. Now they may be coming in from different cities.
Correct.
They may have requirements of
Different days, different times.
days, different times. So how do you factor that in, for example? So by understanding a journey, you will come to know these nuances, and then you'll be able to tailor your CX, the entire processes, the people, the different teams working on it, the product itself, to these complexities. And what are pain points? What are moments of truth? As I said earlier, something could be pain points which need to be solved. Right now, so that's, I think, it's kind of important when we think about this as an example, right? Then I would say the next step would be around how do you think of it from a business perspective, that you would obviously want this to grow, but then CX is a big driver for you to grow your revenue.
Correct.
Referrals, user generated content, good reviews, good ratings, right?
Right.
And at the same time, then what kind of metrics do different teams or you need to drive as an organization? So in this case, customer satisfaction,
Correct.
reviews, for example, user stories. Taking just this example, right? While, I mean, we might use different booking channels for booking a hotel, and the rating there becomes a consideration set for choosing, let's say, hotel A versus hotel B. But in this case, maybe if that is augmented by user generated content where people share their stories, or maybe on Instagram or something, and they link it to their, or we
That's
have
how Maldives became so popular.
yeah,
Right. With all the celebrities going, sharing their
exactly.
reels.
So here in this case, it's a group of friends. So that effect, and them maybe celebrating a birthday, or just coming together and kind of doing a reunion, like you and I, and we get some of our other friends and do like a 20-year reunion. Right. So I mean, so these become use cases. They add on to the entire thing. So having that as a metric to have user generated content and linking that to, let's say, a particular villa or a particular property, that can be a new metric which comes in, which eventually aligns with the business goal of driving up revenue and more bookings.
So this helps in discovery and also in advocacy,
In advocacy,
which will help in repeat purchase or referrals.
or referrals or new purchase.
Right.
Right. So it helps the overall, helps you get more bookings.
Right.
So, I mean, and then, so this is a metric which kind of becomes more important along with, let's say, customer satisfaction, along with issue resolution time.
Correct.
And the usual customer service metrics of average handling time, quality of resolution, completeness of resolution, number of issues not resolved, right?
Right.
So driving all those metrics, but then in this case, this can be an important metric with a clear business objective, where we say user-generated content and user-generated reviews, maybe on our platform and some other platform,
Right.
which can be linked and be used by a social media team, for example.
Correct.
That becomes important as a new metric.
Right.
Right. Then I would say, I think the next element what we spoke about was the entire operating model and the technologies which interplay with that. So basically, how do we structure our CX across the different stages? Right. And which function does what? What's the capability of that function? Is something in-house and something outsourced? For what particular aspect of CX? And then where does technology come into play here?
So this is we're defining from our stay experience while we are staying there.
No, I'm saying from the end-to-end experience.
End-to-end.
So for example, if we talk about the pre-sales, and I'm just clubbing it into 3 stages: the pre-sales, the entire purchase part, and then the post-sales or the stay, which includes stay, etc.
Okay.
So when you talk about pre-sales, it's maybe the sales and marketing team,
Correct.
right, and the channel team which work on it.
Right.
Now, because it's, let's say, heavy on social media, we may not want to go with the traditional brand building marketing
Right.
channels, print media, etc., or television media. So the kind of capabilities which are required, the team size, how is it structured, is it at so
All
and
these
that's
things
an
would be
example.
focus.
Will be
Correct.
focus, and do we have it in-house? Do we just maybe have an external agency? So that's the kind of questions which we need to think about and then solve for. Then when just moving on to, let's say, just to bring more flavor, moving on to the post-sales part. Now
The stay part also.
the stay part,
Right. The experience.
the experience part. Now, any kind of support provided or any kind of customer operations provided during stay. Now, do I have an in-house team? Do I have one team for every kind of request or question which comes to me? Or do I have separate teams, which is one handling specialized requests, one which
Right.
is being more transactional? And when I say transactional, it could be like resend that booking to me. Or can you send that invoice again? Or can you split that invoice by 6 because
Right.
I might use it for
Correct.
whichever reason, right? Very simple. So that is very transactional. That can be done by process, SOPs. Now, do you need a same team for that, or do you need a separate team? And then the specialized requests, which could be, I'm not having a great experience, or I'm not able to check in, right? Which is a mission critical issue, which can then kind of explode given what we spoke about social media and a voice for customers. One bad experience and whole thing comes apart,
Correct.
right? So do we have a specialized team for that? So and maybe a different set of people, so a different channel to reach to them, ensuring that things get resolved on time.
Right.
In a much better contextualized approach. So that's the kind of things we need to think about.
Yeah, and little things like no fixed time for breakfast. Like typically, right, when you go with a family group, a group of friends, everybody cannot wake up at the same time and show up at the restaurant and 10 o'clock the breakfast stops. So little things like that, like brands may figure out and then maybe make those little changes that may have a big impact on the whole experience while they're
Absolutely.
staying.
Absolutely. Right, and the last thing, I think it's about the people, right? Like whoever is, and all the functions who are involved with CX. So they're training, they're learning, celebrating success, having CX champions.
Right.
Maybe also thinking about linking some of their growth and career progression and variable pays
Correct.
with some CX metrics which they can directly or as a team they can influence.
Right.
So thinking about all of this becomes a big important part.
Right.
So for example, let's say on-ground operations team, for them linking to a great check-in, check-out experience or a great stay experience,
Or a customer satisfaction.
Or customer
CSAT score later
satisfaction.
on. Yeah.
which they can directly influence, right?
And there could be other metrics as well, like time to check out. How much
Time to
waiting
time.
time somebody had to wait there just to check out.
Exactly.
Right.
Or let's say the quality of checkout. Things like this which become important. They trained, champions are celebrated, and then we can also kind of link it to some of their career and progression and variable pay. So I think this is, if you think about it, it's just like a very quick, short flavor of how do we think about.
Right. No, it's very, very
CX.
insightful and interesting, because it obviously also tells that it has to be a thought through approach, right? And then it has to have a strategy, and then you have to go. And like you said, there's so many different, like operations, marketing, everything has to come together to deliver that amazing CX.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And where do you think, I'm just last segment talking about AI. I mean, we can't have a conversation without talking about AI. So in this whole, let's say, building that CX strategy, where do you foresee that AI will have the biggest impact in the short run?
AI will come for CX.
Of course.
And it will be kind of help in, I would say, three particular areas. One area where I see AI coming in is customer operations and customer engagement through chatbots and virtual assistants, which can cut across different stages. So you can have virtual assistants coming in to help you with the purchase decision, help you find the right thing at the right price,
Right.
maybe the right SKU or what you're looking for. Or after purchase, maybe chatbots
Correct.
who give you a more contextualized, better resolution of whatever support query you have. So AI definitely will come in there. We have already had some adoption of AI is already started in this areas by a large number of organizations, and we have also seen, let's say, a precursor to AI in terms of automation through IVRs or program chatbots, which have been through a logic and flowchart, which are restricted, so which are not like AI enabled, but we've kind of already, as customers, also gotten used to that and a flavor of that. Right. So that's one area. I think the second area is for sales and marketing, in terms of helping sales and marketing teams personalize personalize the entire pre-sale sales journey for customers.
Right.
At the same time, also giving AI will come into content creation.
Correct.
Right, on different channels, which can be more personalized, more contextualized, which will change more rapidly. So
right. And that's what we're talking about. I think next best experience.
Absolutely.
Which is largely driven by AI now.
It could be immersive experiences, for example, right?
Right.
A walkthrough. If we talk about our example, right? Now, to have a walkthrough for each and every villa may be difficult. But with AI, you get that productivity capacity enhancer, maybe, which you can use and build at scale. Right, and which can be replicated at scale as well. So that's another area which I see. And I think third area where AI comes for CX is with the ability to handle large chunks of data, ability to go through so much of chatter on social media, on different platforms, and then help us with better insights. So let's say sentiment analysis.
Correct.
And then help us kind of fine tune based or change or make decisions based on that, or predictive analysis in terms of what customers are thinking, what we need to improve. So there's so much of data out there, but then getting insights from that data.
Correct.
So that's where I think AI comes in terms of predictive analysis. So discounting at the right time, availability, changing of pricing, so many things which can come in.
Cool. Thank you so much. I think it was very insightful. Thanks for sharing, all your experiences, the plan, strategy. I think this is wonderful. So thank you so much. And hope you like this episode. And we'll keep talking about customer experience in our subsequent episodes as well. So do subscribe and watch out for upcoming episodes as well. Thanks. Thank you.
All the best, and an absolute pleasure to be here and talking about this.
Likewise. Thanks.